Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me start off by just referring to the motion that's on the floor. It's from Government Motion Number 74, that the Legislative Assembly of Ontario recognizes that to make life easier for Ontario families and help our economy reign strong, Ontario's tax plan for jobs and growth. Ontario's tax plan for jobs and growth. So let's just see, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure.
Let's take a look at the tax plan for jobs and growth. Here's a chart from Stats Canada, shows the public sector job creation and the private sector job creation by the Liberal government from October 2003 to March of this year. It shows a very large column on one side and a much smaller column on the other side. The large column is public sector jobs. 300,000 new net public sector jobs have been created. They've actually been created by this Liberal government. And during the same course of time, there has been 103,000 private sector jobs that others have created in this province. So we have 103,000 new wealth-producing jobs in this province, created by the private sector. And we have 300,000 new wealth-consuming jobs created by the Liberal government. Now, this didn't happen just by coincidence. There is a reason for it, Madam Speaker, and it does have something to do with their plan of taxes.
Raise taxes.
Here we have, under the Liberal McGuinty government, since 2003, they have created the harmonized sales tax, which has been a debt burden on the taxpayers of this province of $3.1 billion per year. They have created the Ontario Health Tax Premium, which has been a burden on Ontario taxpayers of $3.1 billion per year. Business tax increases of $1.2 billion per year. Debt retirement charges of $931 million per year. Income tax hikes of $900 million per year. Property tax hikes of $450 million per year. The hydro tax of $53 million per year.
Never satisfied.
The eco fees of $39.4 million per year. Electronic taxes of $71.2 million per year. And tire taxes of $70.2 million per year. For a grand total of $10 billion per year taken from hard-working Ontario taxpayers to fund this Liberal government's tax plan. Their tax plan for jobs and growth. Job growth, 300,000 new public sector wealth-consuming jobs, 103,000 new wealth-creating private sector jobs. Does anybody get the trend here?
The ratio is all wrong.
The ratio is a little bit wrong. We should be creating more private sector wealth-producing jobs than the public sector jobs.
They have $10 billion.
But that is what an additional $10 billion per year in taxes buys the taxpayers of this province.
Future wealth. Future
a debt for all our children to carry. A yoke for all our children to be burdened with because of this Liberal government.
What do you think of that?
That is, and of course, let's not forget, when the Liberals brought in and announced this GST, does everybody remember this? That the HST, this HST was going to create 500,000 new jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? 500,000 new jobs were going to be created by this Liberal government bringing in the HST. Now surely we all must recognize, if that indeed was correct, if an additional tax, an 8% additional tax was going to create 500,000 new jobs.
We should have had more tax.
Why did they stop at 8%?
Yeah, we could have.
Why didn't they go to 10% or 12%? And maybe they could have had a million new jobs. And really, why not go to 100%? And then we could have full employment.
Full employment.
Full employment.
It would have worked.
Just tax everybody, everything, and we would have full employment, right?
The world according to McGinty.
I think there's other countries in the past have tried things like that.
North Korea?
But realize that it doesn't work.
North Korea comes.
But this Liberal government doesn't recognize that it doesn't work. They just continue on and on. And I really have to make a mention here. Previously, the Minister of Imagination and Creativity was up speaking, and he informed the House that a grand revelation that the Niagara region produced 80% of all our renewable energy in this province. Amazing, an amazing revelation. The next thing I know, I think we're going to see him. Maybe he'll announce that 100% of photosynthesis comes from the sun. I'm not sure. Yeah. But this is a minister of this crown, and wanting to give us economic lessons.
Did you ever hear of Niagara Falls, do you think?
Let me see. Like my colleague before, I want to start by reading a quote from Premier McGinty from April 4th, 2011. And it's from Hansard. And I quote, "A very good predictor of the future is what has happened in the past." Now let's talk about Premier McGinty's record, because it will go a long way to predicting what the future holds for Ontario.
Oh dear.
Should he be re-elected, which we all know is pretty slim.
We sure hope he's not re-elected.
Before the 2003 election, he promised he would not lower taxes, but he would not raise them either.
I remember that.
And on September 11th, 2003, prior to that year's provincial election, Premier McGinty signed a pledge, and it was called the Taxpayer Protection Promise. Now, if anybody on the Liberal benches forgets that, I do have it up on my website, and I also have it up on my Facebook. And it's a nice picture of the Premier signing that pledge. But I've given the members opposite a little option. I have little bubble notes that are blank above them, and you can fill in whatever you like in those bubble notes. Let me read that pledge into the record.
What's the matter?
And it says, Speaker, it says,
"Are you all right?"
"I, Premier McGinty, leader of the Liberal Party of Ontario, promise if my party is elected as the next government, that I will not raise taxes or implement any new taxes without the consent of Ontario voters." We all remember that.
Did they give him a consent?
We all remember those commercials. The ones he ran.
Consent.
More than 200 different commercials during that election campaign. And we all know that signing that pledge helped get Premier McGinty get elected. And we all know what happened next.
Sad day in Ontario.
He forgot everything that he pledged. It was as if he never even signed the pledge. As soon as he got here,
The ink wasn't dry.
he signed in the biggest tax increase. The health
What
tax.
happened?
$3.1 billion. The largest tax grab up until that time in the history of Ontario.
Wow.
Taking over $3 billion. This is again part of his tax and jobs plan. Tax and jobs plan. In 2007, he did it again. Before the 2007 election, Premier McGinty emphatically denied that he would increase taxes. When told that his critics wouldn't believe him, he said, "They're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong." But after the election, and with no warning, he broke his promise once again and brought in the $3 billion HST tax grab. Another $3 billion tax grab. And HST on hydro bills is one of the reasons why hydro costs are skyrocketing and why industry is leaving this province. And I should just, going back to those jobs numbers, and those are from Stats Canada, that 300,000 new public sector jobs, 103,000 private sector jobs, and a negative loss, a negative 277,000 manufacturing jobs under Premier McGuinty's watch.
Gone.
Done.
And on the very same day that he brought in the HST, July 1st, last year, 2010, Premier McGuinty tried to use his HST as a cover, as a facade, to hide in and sneak in another new tax, the eco-tax, on more than 9,000 new items that Ontario families use every day. And it's quite a list. 9,000 new fees for things like cement concrete mix, primer cement, easy flow primer cement, concrete mix countertop, cement quickset. It even has lock sets. Lock sets were included in this. How often do we recycle our doorknobs? Well, I think the doorknobs would have to answer that question for me. That is really, there are 9,000, over 9,000 items in here.
Just the Hamilton one.
He
And
didn't say you.
9,000 items in here,
You're
including
assuming
every
that, don't you?
doorknob in the province,
Say you.
is subject to
If the shoe
Liberal
fits.
eco-tax.
You shouldn't assume.
Oh no, that was me. We just pretended.
We're hearing about the struggles from Ontario families each and every day. I've raised them up in this house many times. Many times I've stood up here and spoke on behalf of my constituents who send me their hydro bills and they're crying out and pleading for help and assistance from the high cost. And I think tomorrow it was interesting. I got a call from a constituent in the neighboring riding, and she's pleading that somebody help her with her hydro bills. Pleading to help her with her hydro bills. And you know what was interesting? She says, "You helped my parents," and I called my MPP, but she hung up on me. And I said, "Well, who's that?" And it was the Minister of Education, the member for Hastings, would not deal with her constituent.
Wow.
But really, it was just, but I'm going to bring that up in the House tomorrow. And so you can all see just what you're doing to the people of this province. But it didn't end there. With these electronic taxes, tire taxes, diamond taxes, hydro taxes.
That's what my neighbor riding.
Madam Speaker, the list is endless. Over $10 billion per year sucked out of the pockets of hard-working Ontario families to pay for what?
Their appetite
To
is
pay,
Appetite to spend.
yes, to pay for their tax plan for jobs and growth. What a load of nonsense that we're hearing from this Liberal
I think
government.
it's a load of something else.
It is an absolute travesty, I think, that we all recognize that this Liberal government even brought this motion forward. They must have thought that they were going to be able to pull the wool over somebody's eyes with this motion. But nothing will happen like that. People are cognizant, people are reasonable and intelligent, and can see through the nonsense of this political motion. And of course, just last week, the McGuinty Liberals voted down one of our motions calling on the Premier to reject any new tax increases. You know why?
Because they want to put them up.
Because the Liberals are keeping their options open on more taxes. That's what their tax plan is all about. Tax plan for jobs and growth. Public sector jobs, wealth-consuming jobs. Then on Wednesday, the finance minister said that the McGuinty government will not raise or lower taxes. Now, have we not heard that story once or twice before?
Gone full
Once or twice before.
Been there.
We've all heard that. That's exactly what the Premier said back in 2003. And now we have this completely contemptible motion that's been brought in the House today. This Liberal government is interested in taxes, taxes, taxes. And that's all what this motion is about. More and more taxes.
And they only buy
more is, and really, they are so hardwired and addicted to taxes. That's what they believe the role of government is to take money from people and provide nothing in return. This latest promise by the Premier not to raise taxes comes at the same time that he is more likely than ever to break his word once again. He's already said that he isn't going to run again after this election. Then again, maybe that's why the finance minister moved the motion, because he'll be the next Liberal leader to break his word about raising taxes.
Or maybe the AG.
But I will tell you this. It's very comforting for ourselves and the people of Ontario to know that the Liberal word is consistent. You can't believe it any time. Can't believe it ever. They say one thing and they will do the opposite. Aside from knowing that they're going to raise taxes, because that's just what they do. That's what they do all the time.
Be a word for that, but I guess we can't use it.
That's why we have a $17 billion deficit. That's why we are now a have-not province. And just as was, again, earlier, the member for Beaches East York mentioned that how Manitoba has gained a net number of jobs after the recession of 15,000, and we are still at a net loss of near 20,000 jobs since our recession. Manitoba has lifted themselves out. Dalton McGuinty has put the thumb down, has put the heel to the people of Ontario. And he won't stop the runaway spending that we've seen time and time and time again. And now that we're going to see that he's added new spending, tried to sneak another one in with his OPSU deal, where he, and of course the Minister of Finance said this was a great deal, but we just had to keep it secret from everybody. We just had to keep it secret because it's such a good deal.
Such a good deal.
Hey? And I heard, you know, the member earlier from the Liberal side saying that this Samsung deal, it's a modest deal. Well, why aren't you opening the books and letting us see how modest that deal is?
Let the minister have a look at it.
McGuinty has grown the debt, and he's on track to completely double it.
More so.
We'd like to point out that it took 23 premiers, 136 years, to accumulate Ontario's first $148 billion in debt. Premier McGuinty will single-handedly double that number in just 8 years. And what do we get for it? What do we get for it? Now, before the 2011 election, the Liberals and Premier McGuinty are making more promises. Let me read again from that Hansard quote that Premier McGuinty said in April 4th, 2011, from Hansard. A very good predictor of the future is what has happened in the past. And that is why Ontario families won't buy your false promises, your false pledges any longer. They want a guarantee, and the only guarantee that is solid is a guarantee from the Progressive Conservative Party and our leader, Tim Hudak. And when it comes to taxes, there's only one guarantee that Premier McGuinty will give them, and that's he'll raise taxes and continue to raise taxes. The Ontario PC government will take a different approach. We will guarantee there will be respect for the taxpayers of this province. We will show the people of this province that a PC party is indeed will get us back on the right track, get the number of jobs on those charts back in the right direction, and show the people of Ontario
Government
once again
House Leader.
that growth comes with a progressive Conservative Party.